Sweet. Here we go. Live, hitting it
Going live. Oh man, look at that. We are
live,
live on YouTube.
live
On there.
recording. Oh man, here we go. All right, let's get it shared real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do our due diligence.
Yeah, get it out there, ready for everybody.
How is everybody doing tonight? It is a Thursday night live. We're on the live stream right now.
It sure is.
Yep. I hope that, well, first of all, we're back to our regularly scheduled programming. Um, I hope that everybody's having a good week. Uh, I know that we are. Um,
Mm-hmm.
how's your week going, man?
Oh, it's busy. It's been busy, man.
Yeah.
But good. But busy and good. Um, just I'm ready for this weekend, I'll tell you what.
I tell
It's
you what.
been it's just been super hectic. And I know next weekend's gonna be the same, but that's fine. Or next week, I should say, is going to be just as crazy. But you know, um, I'm ready for the weekend, man. It's
Why is that though, man?
it's just a time for me to recharge, man. Chillax,
Yeah.
recharge. That's all I really want, man.
No, but I meant the hectic. Why is it going to be hectic, dude?
Oh well, it's still beginning of the semester, and for anybody who works in education, they know beginning of the semester gets kind of crazy. Just trying to get everything done. Usually, for me, it doesn't start to slow down until um, usually about like a month in or so, or at least 3 weeks or so in. So I'm only on round what this week is the second week, so next week is the third week. So
Sure.
hopefully I'll start to see stuff taper down or taper out, but we'll see. But
Gotcha.
otherwise, it's just been that, and
Yeah.
I'm happy it's the beginning of the month, so new phase of planning and stuff like that. But yeah. But what about
Sure.
you, man? What about you?
Oh man, so good, so good. I seriously, I'll keep it brief because I could talk about it for a long time. But um, I played two of the best shows I've ever played back to back, which is really cool. Um, completely different set of circumstances too. One of them was a private gig that I got hired for, and to be honest, man, I really don't even know what the event was, but
Mm.
it was at the Kansas Aviation Museum, um,
Hmm.
which was one of the first. The museum's built inside the original Wichita Airport, and it was one of the first transcontinental airports in the country, right? And so
Hmm.
there's a ton of history in there, like over 100 years of history in there. Um, and Charles Lindbergh, Amelia Earhart, Howard Hughes, they all made stops there, right? And so this was some fine dining event. They bussed people over from a hotel. I didn't know what was going on. So I talked to one guy who was from Iowa. But I
Mm.
also recognized someone there from Wichita.
Mm.
Um, so it was interesting. But all I had to do was just provide ambient background music. So I brought my pedal board for my electric guitar setup.
Hmm.
I used my acoustic guitar and just did ambient reverb stuff. It was awesome. I got paid. Oh my god, I got paid very well for that.
That's
I'll just
awesome.
put it that way. I got food was comped. It was Scotch and Sirloin, which is one of the nicer restaurants up here. Scotch and
Hmm.
Sirloin. And so it was catered, and they let me take a break to have some. So cumulative, I only played for about an hour and a half. I got paid very well.
That's nice.
So yeah, I want to keep doing that, but it was more than that though. It was, I mean, that was a great foundation, don't get me wrong, but it was the history of that place. Like I said, it was hearing my guitar reverberate off these walls that have so much history in them.
Hmm.
And the airport closed in the 60s, I believe, so it's not been an airport for a while, but they have all these historic airplanes in the back. And um anyway, just even propping the door open with my PA, I was like, this is so
Hmm.
wild. Like I'm literally doing the thing that I wanted to do when I was a kid, and I'm like using my equipment to prop open a 100-year-old door. Like it's
Hmm.
just crazy. Um, and then I walked out the back on this veranda that overlooks the airport. It was dark. The sun was setting about this time, actually. And it was beautiful. And they aren't open that late. So I'm one of the few people who would get to see that. And then by the time I left, it was just me and the janitor, dude. Janitor, he like connected to the sound system and started blasting some like alternative rock. It was hilarious. But yeah, I was the last one to leave. So I got to walk through the whole thing while it was empty, which is crazy.
That
But
is.
that was awesome. But then the next day, my band, No Signal, opened for Hinder,
Mm.
um, which is like Lips of an Angel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that was amazing. It was at a place in Inman, which is about 45 minutes north of here, and the joint is called 365 Sports Complex. It's actually like they had fencing up around where the crowd would be,
Mm-hmm.
because on the sides they had like weights, dumbbells, like all this kind of stuff. It's like a summer training facility for I think high school athletes. I'm assuming. Um, so, but they turned into a concert venue, and it was awesome, dude. It was so well run, managed. The staff was so friendly. We really taken care of. The sound was phenomenal. I've seen so many videos of the performance, and the mix was amazing. There was like 400 to 500 people there, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
Which either way, I mean, outside of my church, that's the largest crowd I've ever played for sure. So that was awesome. Um, it was well received. We were able to get people up out of their seats. I had them come up to the front and rocked out with us and sold merch and took photos with these people, sold CDs, signed the CDs. Like it was kind of wild. It was like a full on like uh concert video. it
Nice.
it was kind of wild. The perform like we performed really well, and I told one of the staff members that I said, I I really appreciate you guys taking care of us so we could give our best because um Trip, he's our drummer, and we
Mm-hmm.
rode up together. And on the way back, we were talking about that. I was like, man, a lot of these venues don't understand that. Unfortunately, that if you go out your way and give the band the best treatment possible rather than treating them like coworkers
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, that allows the band to give their best, and therefore the crowd enjoys it more, and they spend more money at your venue and all that kind of stuff. So um, it was really cool, man. It literally couldn't have gone better. It was such a good opportunity for us to have so many people buy the CD. I'm waiting to see the numbers. The numbers take about a day to come in to see how many people have listened to it online since then. But we got more followers on all the platforms and everything, and a lot of photos, a lot of good video content coming. Dude, it was amazing.
Man, that
It was,
sounds great, man.
yeah, I know of one guy who drove from Great Bend to see us perform,
Wow.
which is about
That's a drive.
it's a drive. I think it's an hour and a half drive. I'm not sure. Um, but to see us, dude. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
of course, he stayed for Hinder, of course. But yeah, he literally told us that he was like, "No, I came here for y'all," which is crazy. So, um, yeah, the other band that opened for us, Bootleg Mercy, they were good. They were cool
Mm-hmm.
guys, and they put on a good show. And then Hinder, they have a different singer. They don't even have the original singer.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
Yep, they've had a different singer since 2013. It turns out, um, and man, I don't know. It's interesting. A lot of these bands, um, how they have the longevity, and I say this again. I think I said this to you off mic, but like Saving Abel had 3 hits. Hinder had 3 hits. Saving Abel's hits were way bigger, more successful by the numbers than
Mm-hmm.
Hinder was. But every time I said Saving Abel, people are like, "Oh, who is that?" But then I
Hmm.
would say we're opening for Hinder because we've opened for both of them. That's why I said that.
Yeah.
Every time I would say we're opening for Hinder, they'd be like, "No way, what?" I mean, I had random people hitting me up yesterday. Good luck tonight. No one said anything before the Saving Abel show. It
That's
was crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, it was really weird. So I don't know. Maybe it was more. Maybe they appeal to more Midwest. culture. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. I mean, maybe that could be it. I don't know. But it was awesome, dude. I would gladly go back and play another show. Our next one isn't until October, literally 7 weeks from now. So that's at the
Hmm.
Cotillion, though, which is where I've always wanted to play there, of course. So,
Yeah.
um, and
Awesome
one of the
venue.
guy, what's that? Sorry.
Awesome venue. So.
Well, one of the guys that was in Bootleg Mercy, the opening band, he's bassist and he also plays bass in this band called Love Like War. Is that what they're called? Or was that no, I think that's what they were called. I might another band I just saw though. I don't know why. Anyway, but yeah, so he'll be on that lineup too, which is kind of funny. So small world.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really good, dude. It was really good. I was overwhelmed. I'm still giddy about it. Like it was just so crazy. Couldn't have gone better. And like people just reacting to the parts of the songs I would hope they would react to. And because we're still feeling that out. We're still finding like what do people like,
Hmm.
and who is our home fan base and that kind of thing. And so um yeah, it was really cool. Really, really cool. So anyway, let's get into our topic today, dude.
Yeah, man.
Um, and you can, I don't know, you can start it off if you want, but we're talking about, we titled this episode "Let the Water Wars Begin." A lot of concern about water wars right now, which is basically shortage of water, shortage of palatable drinking water for people,
Yep. Yep.
um, manifesting in a lot of different ways at one time. Now, there's a number of reasons for this. Global warming actually does play a factor in it.
Hmm.
But what's going on right now? Well, I guess it is that a little bit, but it's drought. Drought is I was thinking of contaminants into the drinking water, which can also be caused by global warming.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Exactly. In this
but
particular case, it's a little bit of both, but yeah.
well, yeah, yeah, yeah. But drought across the Southwest right now, and then in the case of Jackson, Mississippi, contaminated drinking water. They've had boil
Hmm.
water advisory for a month, man,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Which is
now
crazy, and
and
it's just gotten worse now.
they can't keep store shelves stocked for bottled water and stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, I guess I can kind of start by saying, like, it's really crazy. I mean, Jacksonville, Mississippi has been having issues. Like you said, they've had boil water notice for like a month, but even before then, they've been having issues kind of on and off, just because of like an older water system that kind of needs to be revitalized, and they just don't have the money at this point, in time. So, but what's going on currently? One of the biggest things that's going on currently is that they've had like really bad flash flooding, and it's kind of just really devastated their water system to devastated it so much that uh, they in some places they don't even have enough water to be able, like, the pressure is really low, and it's so low that they don't even have enough water to be able to
Sure.
um, flush their
Yeah.
toilets, which is crazy, right? That's not even drinking water. That's just regular old water or whatever like that.
Hmm.
And then of course you also have contaminants, like really bad contaminants in the water, to where you have to of course boil your water and hope that that's even gonna help. I know, I saw reports that they were trying to get water distributed out to the residents, to try to make it so that way everybody has at least clean water, some sort of clean water, and drinkable water. But it's pretty crazy, and then um going even outside of Jacksonville, right? You even have the drought that has been ongoing in the West, um that just continues to get worse and worse. I mean, even here in Texas, we've had issues with drought. We've essentially been in a drought since the beginning of this year. And of course, Texas kind of jumps in and out of drought, relatively often, but I'd
Mm,
say it's been really exacerbated because of the extreme heat that we've been getting. And it's kind
sure.
of the same, which is really, that's the biggest thing, right? Is that the extreme heat is hitting not just Texas, of course, it's kind of hitting essentially the whole United States, and we're getting in these weird fluctuations, but it's also hitting Europe, right? I feel
Mm,
like this is something that a lot of people don't even notice, but like even Europe, a lot of parts of Europe are also having drought issues. Some of it is because of the heat, and then some of it is just because there's not enough rainfall, which is
yeah,
weird to say. I feel like us as Americans, we get so wrapped up in what we're feeling, right? That we don't see a lot of kind of what's going on outside of the country. But
right.
and granted, I'm sure it's very similar over in Europe and stuff like that. But I just think it's kind of crazy that our weather patterns have gotten um, uh, so hard to predict, as well as just uh, outside of the norm, that it's not just us that's having drought issues or water issues really, but it's across the globe.
Yep.
And I'm sure some of it also comes down to like practices, right? Water practices are in how we treat water, how we recycle water, all that other good stuff like that is, it's been fine because we're used to the regular process of how
Hmm.
we use water, right?
Yeah.
Because it's pretty much stayed status quo for years and years. Um, but now it's kind of gotten exacerbated to a point to where we might need to start changing the way we do stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, even in Wichita earlier this year, yeah, um, there was a huge pipe burst that caused boil water advisory. I think for my 2 days, it might have been
Mm,
3. I can't quite remember,
mm-hmm,
but it affected not just Wichita but all the surrounding communities, except for somehow the one that I live in. So that
hmm,
was nice, but I
yeah.
still played it safe. And just how that impacted this community, flying off the shelves. Well, I think Christina just gave us stars. Thank you so much.
Oh man.
Heck yeah. If you're on the live stream, you can donate a free amount of stars, which goes to the Catch Up Podcast Fund. Every dollar you spend goes to one bottle of super coffee for me to drink. No, I'm just kidding. It actually helps us keep this on the airwaves
Yeah, it does.
because we do have to pay monthly for this to be heard by you all. So thank you so much, Christina.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, just seeing how this community reacted to that, it wasn't great. Just because there wasn't a lot left on the shelves. I know a lot of businesses have shut down or did shut
Mm,
down during that time because they relied on that water. They had nothing, no infrastructure to work around that, and so
yeah.
it affects. I know that's happening in Jackson, Mississippi too. So it affects a lot of people in a lot of ways. Um, which you mentioned it's probably time that we start doing things differently. But what
Mm-hmm.
would that look like in your mind?
Well, I feel like a lot of it kind of comes down to, um, one, and I know that some of this has already kind of been introduced in the infrastructure bill that was passed, a few months ago,
Hmm.
um, where it's to essentially fix a lot of, or even update a lot of the older pipes, as well as like older water processes that we use today, because I think that is one thing that does need to happen. I mean, not many people know this, or at least we don't think about it, but um, a lot of really states within the United States have issues of lead being in their water supply.
Yeah.
Um, And as we all know, lead's not great in the water supply at all. And a lot of
No.
that just comes down to aging pipes, right? It's aging pipes, older infrastructure that was in there, because that was what at the time that we thought was the best part. And also, a lot of times those pipes were fine and they were treated at that point. But if you have, if they've been there for 50, 60 years or something like that, they're going to start degrading, and that degradation is going to slowly seep into your water. So I think one of the biggest things is to up our infrastructure when it comes to our pipes and stuff like that, because one, that'll lead to less bursts, which also means that there's less water that's actually getting just wasted.
Mhm.
But I think I'm not fully sure on. I have to do a little bit of research on it, but I think there are far more. There are far more efficient ways for us to deliver our water to our residents in a manner that's probably that could be a little bit less wasteful, as well as I think having it to a point to where people can start almost making it mandatory. Like I
Mhm.
know in some places around the world it is mandatory, like in Australia, but having rain catchers, right? Rain catchers for water that you can eventually use to be moved into your house, and then that can kind of becomes a part of your own stuff. Because then,
Right.
if you
With
have
a
that,
filtration system built in. I think a
exactly,
lot of people don't know that that's possible, you know?
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, and so that would also help lower the amount of um, water usage, overall water usage, right? Because, the way that we get our water isn't just magic, right? It's coming
Yeah.
from a reservoir or some sort of lake or something similar to that. And then it's being treated, of course, and then processed and then pushed out to us.
Yeah.
But yeah, if we can do that, one, the rainwater that we do get, we are now actually able to properly utilize it instead of it just being um, used for our watering our grass.
Right.
um
Well, the other thing that's contingent upon though is being in a place that is not covered in drought, you know.
yeah, very true, very true.
Yeah.
um but I do think that is something that kind of, I think we need to start implementing when it comes to that, or even give creating funds similar to kind of like what we've been talking about with the inflation reduction act, which is making subsidies for not just building companies to kind of help create that, but even for just regular consumers to be able to have those rain collection deals, because it is a little bit of an investment, and there's a lot of stuff that you have to do in the background to make it work the way that you need it to.
Right.
Um, but now this is probably going to be a little bit more of a controversial one, but
Okay.
I think that we should also get rid of this notion of having a lawn. So,
Okay.
hear me out, hear me out. Having lawns, right, is technically not necessary. It's more of just a nice to have. It is something
It's a bit
that
of a flex.
is,
It's a flex.
yeah, it is,
You
and
have
it
a lawn
all,
land and you make it look nice. Yeah. It's like a
yeah,
flex.
exactly. And it all is there from old outdated thoughts of like, this is how royalty, because back in the day, only royalty could have these massive lawns that were manicured and they looked really well or whatever like that. And
Right.
so when people were able to slowly get that into their own homes, that became a big status symbol, all that other good stuff. Um, I think at least lowering the amount of lawn that you have or whatever like that, because the amount of water that we actually use and utilize just for caring for a lawn
Oh yeah.
is quite a bit, right? And that can lower the amount of consumption that is used, that we use ourselves.
Definitely. Well, what would we do instead? Just butt each house up next to each other?
No, no, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like you can do something similar to where a lot of arid places do it. So like
Yeah,
in Arizona and say Nevada and stuff like that, a lot of them have less of a grass lawn and more of a kind of like a rock type features. So um you can still have kind of like some flowers and stuff like that kind of spread out, but there's less of a grass area and more of like specific plants or whatever like that spread out,
gotcha.
and the rest of it is kind of like a rocked landscape or whatever like that. It's one,
Yeah,
less maintenance. Two, if you are going to water, it's going to be far more specific. um, and again, you're not watering a whole grassy patch. You're
sure.
just watering what you need. Now, I know that's going to be harder for most people to do, but I think as we come upon an age of possibly more extreme droughts and more widespread droughts, that might be something that we have to kind of focus in on. You know?
Yeah, it's a hot take, but I'm not against it. I mean, it would be again kind of like what we were talking about with climate change and clean energy. I mean, it's just little things that mount up to a big thing. I mean, that's how we
Hmm.
got to where we are with climate change, which a bunch of little things amounting to this big problem. Um, so I think that the point I want to make real quick is this article I'm looking at here. It says, this has upended the life of roughly 150,000 people in Jackson, Mississippi.
Hmm.
Schools were closed, businesses closed or forced to adapt. People waiting long lines for bottled water, which I think I heard on the news today that they've run out of those bottled water.
Yeah.
Um, they've been told that they could shower, but they have to keep their mouths closed so they don't accidentally drink the water. I mean, would you even
Mm.
want to shower? That would be too much of a risk to me.
I know.
And I don't know. To
And it's still
me,
going to seep into your body in some form, but I guess it's not in the higher amounts.
yeah. Well, I mean, I think to me, like we've done so much pillaging, basically just taking and not concerning ourselves with the repercussions because we didn't have to when the plant had 1 billion people on it or even
Yeah.
2 billion people on it. But now that it has closed in on 8 billion people on it, we really need to. And so the thing about that is this is a preview of things to come in more communities. This is what it would
Yeah.
be like if we don't start conserving our resources and
Hmm.
making changes to how we do things. And so, reducing our lawn or even go into a more drought resistant type of grass,
Yep.
um,
Exactly.
things like that. Um,
Using turf. I could
I
also
mean,
be another alternative too.
I wouldn't be against that. Yeah, I just, there's so many little things, like not leaving the faucet on when you brush your teeth.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I know it sounds funny, but if you take the millions of people that do that and then shut all their faucets off while they brush their teeth, how many millions of gallons of water is that?
Yeah, exactly. Or
Uh,
using the dishwasher more, because the amount of water that you use just by washing your dishes by hand is actually far more than what you're using
oh
in your
yeah,
dishwasher.
sure.
Um,
Hmm. Which
and
I don't know why.
also,
If you had a dishwasher, why wouldn't you just use that?
believe me, there's plenty of people who don't. So, um, but also just getting more onto companies. I think that's the other thing. There are a lot of companies who are using water wastefully when it comes to just using their water for, say, keeping up with their lawns or the grass features that they have across their properties, or even not really putting any big restrictions when it comes to guests. So like if they're a hotel, because I know there are some in some places they're finding that hotels are using up a lot of the residents' water because in places where there are droughts, only the residents are getting the drought restrictions, but hotels and stuff like that, hotels, resorts, or whatever like that, aren't getting those, which is another
Sure.
issue, right? Uh, it, Stuff like that
Yeah,
makes it.
another example of private America having to battle corporate America.
Hmm. Exactly.
Once, um, well, this is interesting, man. I have a practice I need to get to, but it's been a really interesting discussion on this,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. It has
I
been.
think it's going to be something we'll continue to watch. Um, but yeah, another factor here, this Jackson Water um, system has been troubled for years, according to this article. But
Hmm.
this is an infrastructure thing, like you said. This is all. This is a tale of all across the country. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even just updating those, I'm sure would amount for the more efficient funneling of water and lack of loss. You know, rather than it
Yes.
sinking into the ground, things like that. That's oftentimes those sinkholes happen. You know, it's a leaking pipe
Yep.
and moistening the ground, and it all collapses in on itself. So, uh,
Exactly. Yeah. We're seeing, really 50, 60 years of neglect for a lot of this stuff. And probably even longer than that, really.
yeah,
And so we're starting to kind of reap what we've sown
yeah,
in some
absolutely.
regards.
So, all right. Well, let's bounce out of here. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching. Please rate, subscribe. Let us know what you think of this episode wherever you're listening to it. Um, Leave a review as well. Jump on the live stream with us. Have a conversation with us in real time as we talk about these topics. Go to Facebook or YouTube and type in our podcast title. You'll find us on there. And go to our website. It's linked in the description of wherever you're watching. It's nosignalrocks.com. And there is a drop down menu for the podcast. You can find all of our merch, all of our apparel, and all of our episodes all in one place. So you can support us financially that way, should you choose. So thank you guys. And we'll catch up with you next week.